Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of Prime Video's new action thriller, Play Dirty, which stars Mark Wahlberg as Parker and LaKeith Stanfield as his trusty sidekick in this movie. This film is co-written and directed by Shane Black, who has given us such great action movies in the late 80s into the 90s and sprinkled into the 2000s there, being the screenwriter on such movies as Lethal Weapon, as The Last Boy Scout, as The Long Kiss Goodnight. He turned into a very competent director late in the, well, not late in the 90s, but I think it was more early 2000s with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is one of my favorite movies, just underrated gems in my eyes. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Also, Iron Man 3. He gave us that goodie, as well as another underrated, I think, action movie that came out in the recent 10 years or so, give or take. The Nice Guys with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. Love that movie as well. The less said about Predators, the better. But he is one of my favorite filmmakers. Love his movies. And what he does well is buddy cop or buddy themed action movies, because this is not a cop movie. It's nothing about this screams police presence. I don't even think police were ever present in this movie full of criminals. But the character of Parker is a known character in film and also in books. That character is based on a book series, and you may know, more popularly, you probably know Parker from The Payback, which starred Mel Gibson back in the day. I think late 90s when that movie came out. I like The Payback. Also, Jason Statham had a turn as that character in, can't think. I think the name of that movie was Parker, if I'm not mistaken. But a couple other people have played this character as well. This is a very popular character that doesn't get a lot of shine. I know I fell in love with that character played by Mel Gibson, and for reasons, the character of Parker is probably the worst criminal you could ever come across. Yet he lives by a code, and that code is what keeps him from being just the scum of the earth. Keeping that code is what keeps him above water, to whereas you can actually, I'm not going to say cheer for him per se, but you can follow that character. I love this character. And Mark Wahlberg, he has a spin on this character in this film. Starting along with him and LaKeith Stanfield, you also have Rosa Salazar, Keegan-Michael Key, Nat Wolff, and Tony Shalhoub. Tony Shalhoub, the great Tony Shalhoub, is in this movie. And the synopsis of this film is pretty simple. A ruthless thief and his expert crew stumble upon the heist of a century. This is your typical heist film. The movie is all right. It's actually enjoyable to watch. I had a good time watching this movie, as I do with all of Shane Black's films, even Predators, which is probably the worst Predator movie ever. But I love, well, is it Predator? No, he didn't do Predators. It was The Predator. It doesn't help it any. No, but it's that was the one he did. Did not like it, but it had his moments, and all of his films have those moments. He's real good with the dialogue. I love the dialogue in his film, and this film is no exception. Really funny dialogue. Kept the story kind of grounded. This could have been a serious, very hard-nosed, grounded story, but it has moment of levity throughout that keeps you entertained, for what, 2 hours and 10 minutes or however long it was, but it was over 2 hours. I do know that much. Does this movie deserve a theatrical release? I ask that question every time a film comes out on streaming. I'm like, okay, it's on streaming, especially when it has big stars, movie stars, that you have grown accustomed to watching on the big screen. And so, does this movie, did they miss the boat with this movie going straight to streaming? No, they didn't. They did. This is a true Amazon Prime movie. I can't see myself spending money to go see this movie in the theater, despite the fact that I liked it. I liked it, and that was the problem. It was a typical Shane Black action movie. It has comedy, it has some shootouts. It has all that sex. Everything that you would expect from a Shane Black movie is in this movie. So if you're a huge Shane Black fan, you're gonna have a good time with Play Dirty, and I had a good time with it. So I really can't hate on it too hard, but I do have some hate. I do have some problems with this movie. Number one, I mentioned that it was 2 hours and 10 minutes. It should not have been 2 hours and 10 minutes. This movie drug on an extra 20 minutes that did not need to be in this movie. Normally when I say that, it's hard for me to pinpoint what to cut, what scenes you could get rid of. I'm like, I don't know, but we kind of need that scene for later on and all this here. So I kind of have a internal fight between myself when I have problems like this. But with this movie, I can clearly point to scenes, point to moments, almost an entire act that you can take out of this movie and still have a good time with it. It just drug. You had action moments, big set pieces that happen, and then we go into something else. It's like, okay, I thought that was it. The big staple, like, climactic action sequence happened dead center in the middle of this movie, and that should have been the end of the movie. They had another one after this, which was all right, a car chase in the snow, or, well, in the woods. That was decent, but nothing climactic about it. But that wasn't even the end of the movie. It just kept going. It was like, man, do you know how to end this movie? We get it. We get it. It was a little too long for me. Speaking of the climactic moments, it was one sequence. Now, the CGI was not great in this movie, and never is it great when we're looking at it on television. Now if you've seen it on the big screen, it probably would have played different. But when you watch it on TV, that 4K be popping, and it really shows them flaws. It showed the flaws here. It was bad. I mean, bad. It was a sequence, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's a big sequence that takes place that involves a subway that was, well, not a subway, but a train that was so bad that, and I've never done this before, I had to rewind it to see it again. Like, did I miss something? Did I see this right? Because it was so comically bad that I couldn't believe that they actually put it in the movie. How bad this action sequence was. The idea was fire, but the execution was ice cold. It was ice cold. No pun intended. If you see the scene, you know what I'm talking about. It was so bad. It was a scene in the beginning of the movie that kind of softened the blow for the scene that I'm talking about that's in the middle of the movie. The scene in the beginning with the horse track, that was bad. That CGI was bad. Once again, Great idea, poor execution. It was just the CGI was bad. Another thing, and I like Mark Wahlberg. I just could not get into him as this character. Now, to be fair to him, as I mentioned earlier, I'm such a big fan of Mel Gibson. Him being Mel Gibson aside, but him as an actor, big fan of his. His portrayal of Parker in The Payback from some years back was so good as this character is hard. It's hard for anybody to step in those shoes. And Mark Wahlberg just did not get there. In comparisons, I couldn't help myself but compare because it's the same character. And so it's hard not to compare those two performances. It was kind of it was really night and day. And in the interest of fairness here, there's another aspect of the character that isn't his fault. This is more of a Shane Black problem here. The fact that they really made that character robotic. You know, nothing troubled him. At no point did I feel that Mark Wahlberg's character was in peril, that he was in threat of being murdered or killed or anything, because the way they wrote him, he was basically Batman. He was like, he had enough prep time to prepare for every scenario. And I know that Parker, that character in the books and in TV and film, he is a master strategist. I get all that, but not like, I mean, come on, man. It was some situations that he plotted out so well. And it's one thing if he planned it out for like a week. It was some instances that he planned it out not even a full day, and they had to orchestrate. I'm talking big ideas here. Not like, okay, instead of turning right here, we're going to turn left. All right, cool. We're talking big changes to plans, whereas you had to get materials and weaponry and stuff like that, bombs and all this. You had to get all that together in a moment's notice almost, and you expect me to believe that that it was that accessible. It blew my mind. The other aspect, or I think this is my last complaint about the movie, was his crew. Not the crew in the beginning. Some of the crew in the beginning, but his main crew that we followed throughout the duration of this film, they were just too comical to me. Now, granted, Keegan-Michael Key was a part of the group, so it's going to have comedy elements in it, but it is everybody in the crew. Everybody, aside from him and Rosa Salazar's character, were comical. They were just silly and just irresponsible to be pulling off this master heist. It was, once again, hard for me to believe that they can pull this off. Now, this is me just, deep diving in it and looking at it from a certain lens. Now, if I'm sitting down and just want to turn my brain off and watch it, oh man, it's a good time. It is a good time. It is a fun movie. It is action packed. It has everything that you would want in a action movie. This is a throwback action film from the 90s. Had this movie came out in, 1994, 95, oh, it would do gangbusters. It fits that era perfectly. But unfortunately, it's 2025. The world moves different. And so it's still fine to me because I'm a fan of that era of action films. But overall, I did enjoy it. I did have fun. It may not sound like it, but I did have fun with the movie. And it is watchable for what it is, as long as you're not looking for anything heartfelt, thought-provoking or Oscar caliber, nothing like that. But just a fun time. Play Dirty is for you. Play Dirty, which is currently on Prime Video, gets a letter grade of a C. Yeah, it's decent. It's decent. You know, the stuff that I'll complain about is really nitpicks. Picks. You know, it's nothing that I would say like, man, I'll never watch this again. I will watch it again. You know, I'll put it on in the background while I'm cooking or while I'm cleaning up or whatever I'm doing. You know, and glance over there to partake in the action and whatnot. But it's worth watching. I will tell you that. If you want to sit down and enjoy, you can check it out on Prime Video. But I would like to know, did you check out Play Dirty, and what did you think of Mark Wahlberg's portrayal of the character of Parker in this film? You can email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Play Dirty. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.